Hi, I'm Billy Griffith with Emerging Revolutionary War, coming to you today live from the shore of Lake Champlain. We are just outside the town of Shoreham or Shoreham, not sure how they actually say it up here in Vermont, but near this spot on May 8th into the early morning hours of May 9th is where Benedict Arnold, with his Massachusetts commission as a colonel, as well as Ethan Allen, colonel of the Green Mountain Boys, his men from the Hampshire Grants, and Massachusetts militiamen will gather just off to the cameras right at an inlet, which is today known as Hans Cove. What are they doing here? Well, they're going to cross Lake Champlain and head towards the British garrison at Fort Ticonderoga, which is just off to the camera's left, probably a little under 2 miles or so from this exact spot on the other side of the lake in New York. Well, this plan to capture Fort Ticonderoga is kind of born in the months actually leading up to the first shots being fired at Lexington and Concord. Fort Ticonderoga itself, it was a very impressive, substantial garrison during the French and Indian War when it was completed in 1756. When the French abandoned it in 1759, they destroy a lot of the fort, blow up the powder magazines, and kind of leave it in a rubble. The British will occupy it, they'll rename it Fort Ticonderoga, but once the French retire to Canada and the war ends, there's really no need to keep a garrison there to guard this strategic waterway. Now, the waterway I'm referring to is the Lake George, Lake Champlain, Hudson River corridor coming down from Canada into the interior of the colony of New York. This waterway went all the way down to New York City. You could take the Hudson River to Portage to Lake George, and then Portage up here to Lake Champlain, and then take Lake Champlain over 130 miles to the north, which would then connect into the Richelieu River in Canada, and then the St. Lawrence River. So it is literally an access way or entry point into Canada and also into New York. So very important waterway in the 18th century when there are no major highways that these armies could travel on. They used water to move these big armies to the areas that they would be launching an offensive against. So by 1775, Fort Ticonderoga is in a very dilapidated condition. Its log timber walls had crumbled, so it's mostly just mounds of earth. There are still some stone barracks on the inside, and it will be garrisoned by about 40 men of the 26th Regiment of Foot, basically just out here on outpost duty. And there will be about an equal number of women and children, too, with the garrison, the families of those who are stationed here. It's under the command of Captain William Delaplace. They are unaware, come May 10th, 1775, that just about a month prior to that, the first shots of the Revolutionary War had been fired at Lexington and Concord. News had not arrived. In fact, it will not even arrive up in Canada until May 19th, exactly a month after those first shots were fired. In April, days after Lexington and Concord, the fighting happens there. Benedict Arnold, who is a captain in the New Haven militia, he commands the 2nd Company of the Governor's Foot Guards. He's going to take his men and march them to Cambridge. Now, he'll get there about a week later, and idleness is not in Benedict Arnold's vocabulary. So immediately he wants to move into a plan of action, and he believes that Fort Ticonderoga, which he knows is vulnerable, is a perfect opportunity to capture much-needed pieces of artillery that the militiamen gathered outside the city of Boston can use in their besiegement or siegement of the British garrison there under Thomas Gage. So Arnold goes to the Massachusetts Committee of Safety, chaired by Dr. Joseph Warren. He gets a commission as a colonel, and he's ordered to head out to western Massachusetts to raise no more than 400 men for this expedition. But while he's doing this, there's already another expedition underway. In Connecticut, leading members of the colony, including Silas Deane, who was at the First Continental Congress, they receive word as well that Ticonderoga is vulnerable, and they commission, under no real legal authority, a Captain James Easton, Captain Edward Mott, to come down, raise his own men, try to recruit the Green Mountain Boys, and move on to Ticonderoga. So Mott will get underway. He goes to Bennington, which is the headquarters for the Green Mountain Boys and Colonel Allen. He recruits them, gets some more men to help with this expedition, and then they'll head down here towards Shoreham, where they'll begin their expedition to move across the lake to take the fort. Well, Arnold, once he arrives in present-day Vermont, he catches word of what Allen and Mott are doing, and he'll ride out here, arriving the day before, on May 8th, before this expedition gets underway. He'll eventually meet up here with Allen. There's a kind of really awkward situation now because Arnold himself has an actual commission from a governing body, the Massachusetts Committee of Safety. Allen does not, but the Green Mountain Boys will not serve under anybody else other than Ethan Allen. So Allen, pretty savvy, understands that, well, if Arnold accompanies him, it gives a legitimacy to this expedition, as well as if anything goes wrong, he can put all the blame on Benedict Arnold. So Arnold is going to serve as Allen's left-hand man during this expedition. And early that morning on May 10th after midnight, so full disclosure, all of these events have already happened at this time 250 years ago. The actual taking of Ticonderoga will be a little after 4 a.m. But it is probably around 11:30 or so. The men will march out of Shoreham, come down here towards Hand's Cove, where they're expecting boats to be waiting for them. Allen had sent out men to Crown Point further down the lake. He'd sent men down to Skenesboro at the southern end of the lake trying to procure boats, but instead there will only be one long boat down here, similar to what we can see right over here behind me. And with close to 200 men under his command, there's not enough boats to get all of these men across the lake in time. So they'll get as many men as they can, probably only about 70 to 80 men across, and by then a wind blows in, they're unable to get the rest, time is of the essence. While the others march down, including Allen Arnold at the head, towards Ticonderoga, they are going to realize that they cannot wait any longer. It's now or never. And that is going to set the stage for the capture of the fort. And we'll be coming to you live from Fort Ticonderoga shortly. Thank you.